What's up, guys? I kind of wanted to give you guys a breakdown of players in the Call of Duty genre. So we're just going to jump right in, and I'm going to divide it into three specific categories, give you the strengths and weaknesses of those categories, and kind of show you how you can take advantage of those strengths and weaknesses based on what type of player you are. So the first one that I identify immediately are rushers. Rushers are people that go to the center of the map and try to gain as many kills as they possibly can, and they don't necessarily care about dying in the process. These are typically good players, so you have to be very careful, but they always carry either a submachine gun, a melee weapon, or a shotgun, because they're the fastest to kill and they're the most effective. Now, some of the strengths that they have is that obviously they're fast, they're tough to spot. So if you're using your radar like a crutch, as you should be, that's what I do, you are not going to be able to spot them on the map specifically. Their movement is going to dictate where they are on that mini-map, and in terms of spotting them, you're going to need to make a visual effort to do so as opposed to checking your radar. Another strength that they tend to have is they use fast-firing weapons. Like I highlighted, they have submachine guns, shotguns, or melee weapons. Typically the submachine guns or any gun that they have equipped on these maps typically have rapid fire or extended magazines, in which case they either A, don't have to reload, or B, don't care to reload because they're expensing as much ammunition as they possibly can in order to get you down as quickly as you can. And finally, the strength that they have that I find to be the most prevalent is that they play on a much higher sensitivity. Now the reason that I find this to be an enormous strength is because typically the people who play as rushers are talented individuals. So they're used to playing with a sensitivity that's unlike that of standard players, which gives them an edge up initially. Now it can also be their downfall if they haven't messed with it enough, but this high sensitivity allows them to move their pipper and their hip fire a lot faster than you. So in terms of reacting to specific shots that you're putting on them, they're able to quickly turn around and then re-engage you. But again, that could be a weakness if they're not used to playing that way. So we'll kind of lead into weaknesses here. Rushers are always out in the open, alright? So when I say they're out in the open, I mean they run to the center of the map in order to gain as many kills as they possibly can. If you're an outside player looking in, it's very easy to shoot from the outskirts and get kills based on that. You don't necessarily have to dive into the fire pit, so to speak, and die in a blaze of glory. You can sit, take your time, pick apart the people on the outside, and that's a great way to help deal with rushers. Now, another weakness that they have, and this is one that I find to be very prevalent, is that they have very short attention spans, and rightfully so. If you're a rusher, you go from one target to the next. If you over pursue on one, you're probably not going to be able to get as many kills as you should based on that particular target. So, say you're playing on Nuketown in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. If you're playing on that map and you're making your way through the buses, sorry, I'm going over this in my head. If you're making your way through the center of the map in the buses and you can't pin down more than one target, you're going to want to try as a rusher and go after one target after another based on who retreats and who you're able to down. So say you're in the middle of those buses and you've got a guy behind the sign. You're able to kill one guy, you tag another, he retreats, you don't over pursue, or typically rushers do not over pursue the guy that they have tagged. They will move on from one opponent to the next, and that will give you an advantage. Say you're the tag guy. You're able to outflank them and hopefully get a kill on them if they haven't already died in the process. So that's kind of the idea on basic rushing. So the second class that I tend to see a lot of, and it's kind of died away based on how Call of Duty has evolved, but that's camping, campers in general. So these are players that typically use sniper rifles, LMGs, and assault rifles and stay in one specific position. Now I could rant all day about how much I hate camping, but I just kind of want to highlight their strengths and weaknesses in order to give you guys an upper hand. So their strengths, pretty self-explanatory. They're calm, they stay in one position, they are fairly smart, and what I mean by that is they expect you to come in that particular location. The people that camp on a regular basis have chosen those positions because they yield them the most results. So in other words, they're used to you running into that hole and getting shot. So be prepared if you are going up against a specific camper that they probably know more about the setting than you do at that point in time. Not to take away from anybody who's been playing the game for an extended period of time, but that's typically what happens with campers in general. So another strength that they have is that they're observant. They use their surroundings. Typically campers are people that are ears on, and I say ears on because they have a headset. And this allows them to hear footsteps walking in and out of rooms. Additionally, they're typically using their mini-map to their advantage. So people who are calling in UAVs, counter UAVs, they use that to gauge how close people are. Not only that, but being observant in terms of killing multiple people in one location, they will move from one area in a specific location to the next in order to throw you off. So you may have a guy sitting in the corner, you die once, and you go back thinking, I'm going to get a revenge kill on this guy, and you feel great about it, and as soon as you walk through the door, you're dead because he's moved positions. That's typically what a good camper does. So in other words, you have to be able to outsmart them once we get to their weaknesses, and I'll kind of outline that. But the last strength that they have is that they're typically loaded. And what I mean by loaded is that they have a lot of equipment. So trip mines, stun grenades, that type of stuff in order to maintain their position for as long as they can. And this is coupled with any type of specialist ability that they have equipped. So leading into their weaknesses, they're in a fixed position. It's simple. They don't want to move, and the only way they're going to move is if you either A, flush them out, or kill them out. So what you want to try and do is flush them out. Killing them doesn't necessarily solve your issue. If you can flush them from their position, they'll typically change their class and move on to another specific class that they find more attractive. In terms of room clearing, I always carry a grenade. That's the best way to get people out of particular locations. In terms of moving players, grenades and specialist abilities that push people from one side of the map to the next, there's nothing more effective than equipment. Use that to your advantage in order to gain kills on campers because it is just annoying to get killed multiple times by the same guy. Another thing that's a weakness for them is that since they're in a fixed position, they're slow to react. They know that you are coming through a specific doorway, or they know that you're coming to a specific point, and they are prepped for that point. So if you outsmart them or outflank them, they're not necessarily prepared. It really all depends on the person you're playing against, but I have found that if you're playing on a higher sensitivity, then you can probably go about overcoming them much easier than you would, say, a standard player, which is the next class we're going to highlight here in a moment. And then their final thing that I find to be a weakness of theirs is that they're not overly talented. And we can debate this for an hour and a half, but I've found that campers who sit in a particular location are not very talented because they either A, haven't tried, or B, just haven't really picked things up. So they find the easiest thing and the simplest thing and the fastest thing, and that's sitting in a corner with an LMG or a shotgun or something to that effect and mowing down players as they come in. So take advantage of that. They're not necessarily overly talented, so if you go into a room with a power slide or a jump or a grenade, you're probably going to be able to overcome them. So let's transition into the final and probably the largest grouping of players that I identify in the Call of Duty genre, and those are standard players. Okay, these are people that typically carry assault rifles and submachine guns as a norm. They're the guys that go, 15-7 in your multiplayer lobby, if we're talking about team deathmatch. They're always there, they're your reliable teammates, they're very easy to predict. So let's talk about their strengths. They travel in packs. They love to stick with their teammates because it's easier for them to gain kills and use the deaths of their teammates to their advantage. So it's a great way for them to obtain a higher kill-death ratio in that regard. Another strength they have, they support their teammates. So if you're traveling in a pack, you're typically going to have crossfire, which means you have more than one gun trained on one position at a time. So if you are traveling in a pack of 3 people, and you're engaging one target, obviously you're going to have an advantage over that one target as opposed to a one-on-one matchup. And then the third strength that I've identified in standard players is that they can be counted on. And what I mean by that is, it's a pretty general statement, but if you play to the outskirts of the map and you're looking for map synergy or map flow, and I'll probably highlight that in a little later video because it's a very important part of playing Call of Duty multiplayer. you can always count on them to drive spawns to specific areas of the map because they travel in packs. There aren't very many lone wolf Call of Duty players, and when that does happen, it really kind of messes up your multiplayer juju if you're a player that enjoys lone wolfing, which is what I do. So they can be counted on to push people to specific areas of the map where you can count on gaining kills with that regard. So let's kind of highlight their weaknesses real quick, kind of wrap up this video. They're easily understood. They're standard players, they stick with their teammates, they push people to the specific side of the map, and then the final weakness that they have is that they can be fooled. Since they travel in packs, and since they are typically casual players, it's very easy to outflank them and outperform them based on using map synergy and map flow in order to gain an upper hand. So those are kind of my three standard those are my three classifications for Call of Duty players in general. So you've got your rushers, you've got your campers, and you've got your standard players. And that's what I've identified in playing a number of different game modes over a very long period of time in Call of Duty, from the very first title to Black Ops 3 right now. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, hit that comment button, that like button, that subscribe button if you feel so inclined. Thanks for watching the video.